Want to really see something that said, take a look at what happened.
Most importantly, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, Trump is a threat to this nation. Trump is a convicted criminal. He was convicted by a jury of his peers of 34 felonies for paying hush money to a porn star and hiding from voters in 2016. Mr. Trump raped her. Raped her. But guess what? Donald Trump has gotten a free pass. He hadn't done a damn thing till a couple of days ago. He'd been riding around his golf cart in his course, filling out a scorecard before he picks up his club. Rambling about. Think what he's been talking about. Hannibal Lecter, he says, is a nice guy. Trump would rather be electrocuted than eaten by said if we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump, and that's a fact.
Look as his character is stabbed to death.
Where is John Wilkes Booth when you need him?
This way. That's it right there. Pull it up.
I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
A Missouri state senator is under investigation by the Secret Service after saying she hopes President Trump is assassinated.
I will go and take Trump out tonight.
And if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome.
They're not going to stop before Election Day in November, and they're not going to stop after Election Day. And that should be, everyone should take note of that on both levels, that this isn't, they're not going to let up, and they should not.
As a matter of fact, if you think back to the last president that had an assassination attempt taken on him that has gotten this close, you're going to go back a ways. And if you actually look at the presidents that were assassinated and you look at what they were doing to the government money, you would realize the reason they're getting taken out isn't because some random Joe Schmo downtown doesn't want that president. It's because the system feels threatened. It's not some random person that's living out in the country like, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to take out Donald Trump. No, this is a systematic approach, right? Their first approach was, hey, we're going to make sure that Joe Biden gets elected and we're going to make sure he gets the votes. He got the votes. Boom. This time around, they were going to do the same thing. They were going to put Joe out there. He was going to get a landslide of votes. Joe was going to win again. But here's the thing. They decided instead of trying to do anything risky, let's just put our opponent in prison. Let's do it the legal way. Let's send him through the judicial system, get him locked up so he can't run for president. And that failed. And as a matter of fact, it garnished more support for Donald Trump. So they were like, oh, crap, Joe Biden, you got to get out there and debate. You got to make sure we can sell how many votes you're going to get and people are going to believe it. But guess what? Joe went up there and fumbled the ball. It's not a coincidence that this assassination attempt happened right after Joe Biden completely fumbled the bag on the debate stage. And all of a sudden, even his own supporters are calling for him to step down. And now the system that you supposedly hate but somehow still vote liberal, that system is panicking. And the only other option they have, since they already exhausted the fake vote, they've already exhausted the legal proceedings, and now their only option is left with desperate, take him
The focus
out.
of the FBI today is to process the crime scene at the rally and try to work backwards and determine the sequence of the events. Now, 3 senior U.S. law enforcement officials say the person who fired at former President Trump used a semi-automatic rifle. The FBI identified that suspect as a 20-year-old Pennsylvania man. He was killed on the scene by law enforcement. It was a terrifying scene as former President Trump was rushed off the stage following that apparent assassination attempt. Federal authorities identified the suspect as Thomas Matthew Crooks. We're told that he had a limited presence online and on social media. A Trump spokesperson says that the former president is doing fine. He traveled to his home in New Jersey and he went online and thanked law enforcement after the incident. President Biden addressed the nation and condemned the violence. We're also told that the president spoke with former President Trump by phone last night. Meanwhile, the Republican National Convention is set to begin here in Milwaukee on Monday, and security was already heightened ahead of the event and has been ramped up even more since the assassination attempt. In Milwaukee, Bree Jackson.
The next thing, right? I mean, we haven't had an assassination attempt on a US president, former or otherwise, since 1981. Of course, that was Ronald Reagan. So we've had a long period of time where we've felt that things are reasonably safe. Suddenly, very quickly, that has changed. What does that do for American politics more broadly?
Well, let me tell you what's going to happen. If that bullet would have been 2 centimeters to the left or just in any other direction and would have gone through his skull, the deep state or the quote-unquote people that want to make us mad and fight with each other would have gotten what they would have wanted, because there would have been some sort of civil war. If Donald Trump gets assassinated, people are going to go to the streets and they're going to cause a lot of damage because they are very frustrated. Donald Trump stands up for, populism. He stands up for the middle class. And this is what they want. They want to take him out so that the people here in America will be fighting with each other instead of actually going to the politicians and trying to fix the problems that we're having. And sadly, we were about 1 centimeter away from literally having a civil war here in America.
And I said to someone today, I feel like it wasn't just Donald Trump who dodged a bullet at that rally. It was the entirety of the US, because if that bullet, as you say, had gone through his head and he had been killed, we wouldn't be sitting here talking tonight or this morning, your time, about what this all means for America. We'd be talking about buildings being burnt to the ground.
You're exactly right. I mean, buildings burned to the ground, people would not stop. It would be a terrible tragedy. I mean, I was not alive when JFK was assassinated, but my dad talks about it. This event that just happened felt a lot like 9/11 that we avoided. This is like a 9/11 that we avoided, but I had that same sense of vulnerability, same sense of sadness, just seeing him bleeding from his ear. But if he would have been dead, America, as it looks today, would have been a totally different country. And now, of course, it changes a little bit with this, but I think Donald Trump's going to rebound and come out stronger than ever. And I do think he's going to win the 2024 election. But we are literally an inch away from changing the entire course of history. It's really mind-blowing when you actually just look at it and start paying attention. Because asking some people after it happened, I went out here and I'm in Tampa and I'm here on vacation, and I went and I talked to some people. Some people didn't even know it happened. Some people were flippant and like, oh, well, I wish he got shot. So it's a very divided country that we have right now. People are struggling, and people do look at Trump as a villain. Some people look at him as a hero. So shooting him would have only divided this nation much further.
Yeah, most definitely. And this